we're really at this big revolution point, right, with AI, where it's only been about a year, right? And it's just how much there is to keep up with, and the potentials of things.
I do think like any big change in the industry, it'll have effect on people's jobs. There might be people who just keep their head in the sand and don't want to do anything with it. You know, they might find themselves being replaced, or more attrition probably. Like that's with advent of CAD and advent of BIM, we
Yeah.
become more efficient and need less people. But then that creates other opportunities for jobs. There didn't used to be a BIM manager or a design technology director.
Right.
So it, just keeping focused on where the trajectory is going and committing some resources to it as an individual or a firm is really important.
I have this fear of, now there's a client who's telling me what they want. I'm putting it into Midjourney or Veris, and then it's popping out 20 options, and I'm going down to 3 options, and then I'm giving it to the client, and they're choosing. But what's going to stop it from taking me out of the process, and they're just looking at 20 options and choosing one and going, right? So like, how have you guys been using AI?
There's a lot of really interesting things we've been looking at to try and understand it as a tool to basically allow for more creativity, efficiency, accuracy. So one really interesting one that comes to mind right away is Upcodes. They actually are a building code software. And they recently, just a little over a year ago, added AI to the building codes. So basically you can ask the building codes questions. And I did a test on that, and you set the code to your project location.
Right.
I asked the question, like, is a vertical grab bar required in an accessible toilet room with it set to Minnesota, which that's been required for many years. So in addition to the L-shaped horizontal grab bar, there's a vertical one required on the sidewall. And so it gave a 2-paragraph response of why it's required, and then also links to all the sections that it found that information in. And then you switch it to Texas where it's not required, and it just simply said in like one sentence, no, it's not required. Everybody at Lake Plato has the full Adobe Creative Cloud suite, so they all have access to Adobe Firefly.
Yeah.
And the ability to have reference images and structure images and then text prompts.
So what are you doing with it? Yeah, what are you doing with it, Firefly?
Most architects will find other architects and projects that we admire, and we put together like a mural board, or now we're using Zoom whiteboard more. Just examples to show the client, and they kind of, I like this, I don't like that. But then we have a lot more opportunities to expand on that. I remember like a year ago saying, this is all inspirational, we'll never show this to a client. And then while I was telling that to somebody in the office, somebody behind me said, we just showed this custom light fixture that we designed using AI to the client. And I mean, we still have to design it and it still has to be built, but just to gauge whether the client thought that was cool or not. I was doing a training on Autodesk Construction Cloud, and I asked the Zoom Whiteboard AI to give me a mind map of this training, which is pretty niche topic. And it had like 85% of what I planned on covering. It had a couple things I didn't think about.
It said, don't worry, Dan, I've been listening to you for weeks. I know exactly what you need.
And then one other quick thing that comes to mind is open space. We use that during the construction of our building. Have you heard of it?
No.
So it involves taking a 360 camera and affixing it to your hard hat. And on an app on your phone, you tell it where you're starting on a floor, and then you can walk wherever you want. The end result is this like Google Street View experience in your building. You can scrub through time. So you're standing here looking at this wall, and you see the original wall, and then it's demolished maybe, and then you see studs, and then you see piping and blocking in the wall. And then you see gypsum board, and then you see paint, and then you see cabinets. And
for that one photo you always forget to take.
Exactly, yeah.
I've been really enjoying using Twinmotion, where now it's great, where it's right inside of Revit, and rendering kind of basic context, but then using different run diffusion kind of stuff to enhance that landscape, and then using upscale programs like Magnificent or something like that can really blow up that detail and then give you that sense of reality in place.
The biggest challenge with just plain text to image is that there's no structure, there's no like design proposal that the architects developed as just something new, which has a place. Veris is an add-in to Revit. The cool thing is like, okay, this is the Revit model, don't change it, but go ahead and adjust the materials. There's a slider for that.
Right.
And if you actually have it low, it can take the Revit materials and make them look really great, sort of like upscaling, and then add some context around the site.
I think it is such a frontier that we're at, and talking about how it's still just a tool, but it is interesting of how it can expand our capacities.